in the dim glow of a distant star, casting eerie shadows across the alien landscape of Zerathia, Eli trudged through the thick underbrush, his boots sinking into the mud with every step. The air was thick with the scent of exotic flora, sweet and metallic, like honey mixed with rust, and the distant rumble of thunder promised another toxic storm. He was no stranger to danger. As a seasoned explorer from Earth, Eli had ventured into the unknown corners of the galaxy, charting unclaimed worlds for the Interstellar Alliance, but Zerathia was different. This planet pulsed with life that defied human logic, trees that whispered secrets, rivers that glowed with bioluminescent poisons, and creatures that blurred the line between myth and reality. His mission was simple, or so it had seemed: scout the terrain, collect samples, and report back to the orbiting ship. But fate, that capricious force in the cosmos, had other plans. As he approached the banks of the river Elysium, a serpentine waterway infamous for its deadly currents laced with experimental toxins from long-abandoned labs, Eli heard a faint splash. It wasn't the usual gurgle of water over rocks. It was desperate, thrashing, like something fighting for its last breath. Curiosity overrode caution. He pushed through the vines, his flashlight piercing the twilight haze. There, half submerged in the glowing green waters, was a figure unlike any he'd seen. She was ethereal, almost otherworldly, a woman with skin as pale as moonlight, her long white hair fanned out like a silken veil on the surface. Pointed ears, delicate and elf-like, peeked through the strands, and her body, clad in tattered remnants of what looked like elegant, form-fitting attire that hugged her curves with an almost regal sensuality, convulsed in agony. But it was her eyes, wide and golden, that locked onto his as she surfaced for a gasp, eyes that held a mix of terror and unspoken plea. Without thinking, Eli plunged in. The water burned his skin like acid, the toxins seeping through his suit's seals, but he ignored the pain. He wrapped his arms around her slender frame, feeling the surprising warmth of her against the cold rush. She was lighter than expected, her form lithe and graceful even in distress, but her struggles weakened as he hauled her toward the shore. "Hold on," he muttered through gritted teeth, his voice a low rumble against the roar of the river. "I've got you." They collapsed onto the muddy bank, both gasping. Eli rolled her onto her side, checking for breath. Her chest rose and fell erratically, and up close, he saw the faint scars along her arms, marks of some cruel experimentation, perhaps from the derelict facilities he'd scanned earlier. She wasn't human. That much was clear from her fox-like features, the subtle tail that twitched faintly behind her, hidden beneath the wet fabric. An alien hybrid, maybe a victim of Zerathia's dark history of genetic tampering by rogue scientists. As the storm clouds gathered, she stirred, her golden eyes fluttering open to meet his blue ones. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice a melodic hush, accented with an unfamiliar lilt that sent a shiver down his spine. Her name, she would later reveal, was Lyra, a guardian from the hidden enclaves of Zerathia. But in that moment, as she reached out a trembling hand to touch his face, Eli felt a spark, an inexplicable connection that transcended species and stars. Little did he know, this act of compassion would bind them in ways he couldn't fathom. Lyra, with her innate abilities honed by the very experiments that nearly killed her, would become his protector, his shadow in the perils ahead. And as the first drops of poisonous rain fell, she clung to him not just for survival, but with a fierce, almost primal loyalty that whispered of mates destined across the void. Eli helped Lyra to her feet, her body leaning heavily against his for support. The river's toxins had left her weakened, but there was a resilience in her gaze, a fire that burned brighter now that she'd been pulled from death's grasp. "Why did you risk it?" she asked, her voice gaining strength as they moved deeper into the forest, away from the exposed bank. The trees here were massive, their trunks glowing with phosphorescent veins that lit their path like natural lanterns. "I couldn't just leave you," Eli replied simply, his arm around her waist to steady her. Her skin was soft under the torn fabric, warmer than he expected, and he tried not to notice how perfectly she fit against him. "On Earth, we have a saying, no one gets left behind." He glanced back at the river, its surface now churning with the storm's fury, and wondered what horrors had driven her into its depths. Lyra's laugh was soft, almost musical, cutting through the tension. Earthlings, always the heroes in their own stories, but there was no mockery in her tone, only a hint of awe. As they walked, she explained in fragments, she was a product of forbidden experiments, a fusion of Zerathian fox-skin genetics and advanced alien tech, designed to be a weapon. But the process had gone wrong, poisoning her from within, and she'd fled into the wilds, only to collapse into the river. By the time they reached a secluded glade, shielded by overhanging foliage. The rain pounded relentlessly. Eli set up a makeshift shelter from his pack, a thermal blanket that hummed with energy to repel the acid droplets. Lyra watched him with those piercing eyes, her tail now visible as it curled around her legs, a sleek, white-furred appendage that added to her enchanting allure. "You are strong," she murmured, settling beside him. "Not just in body, but in spirit. My people. We bond deeply with those who save us. It's in our blood." He felt a flush creep up his neck, unsure if it was from the lingering toxins or her proximity. Bond, like friends? He busied himself with ration packs, offering her a nutrient bar. She took it, her fingers brushing his, sending a jolt through him. More than that, like mates, eternal guardians. Her gaze held his, intense and unwavering, as if sealing a pact under the stormy sky. As night fell, the forest came alive with distant howls and the hum of unknown creatures. Lyra's presence was a comfort, her body heat warding off the chill. But Eli sensed danger lurking. Scanners from his ship had warned of invasive forces on Zerathia, rival aliens seeking to claim the planet's secrets. Little did he know, Lyra's rescue had set in motion a chain of events that would test their budding connection. In the quiet moments, as she rested her head on his shoulder, Eli pondered the vastness of the universe. Here he was, a lone human, entangled with a being from another world. Her scent, wild jasmine mixed with something electric, filled the air, stirring emotions he hadn't felt since leaving Earth. Was this fate or folly? Only time would tell. But as the first patrols of enemy scouts rustled the leaves nearby, Lyra's ears perked up, her form tensing. "They come," she whispered, her hand gripping his. "But I will protect you now, as you protected me." Eli nodded, heart racing. The adventure had just begun. The scouts were sleek, armored figures from the invading fleet of Xandor, ruthless conquerors who'd long-eyed Zerathia's untapped resources. Their ships had dotted the horizon earlier that day, but Eli had dismissed them as distant threats. Now, in the glade, 3 of them emerged from the shadows, their energy rifles humming with lethal charge. Lyra moved like a phantom. One moment she was beside him. The next she shimmered, her body shifting in a blur of light, her experimental enhancements kicking in. She grew taller, more agile, her nails extending into claws as she lunged at the first scout. The alien fired, but she dodged with supernatural speed, her tail whipping to disarm him. Eli watched in awe as she dismantled them. A swift kick to one's knee, a slash across another's armor, all while her golden eyes glowed with feral intensity. "Stay back," she called to Eli, her voice a commanding melody. He complied, but not idly. He pulled his own blaster, covering her flank with precise shots that felled the 3rd scout. When the skirmish ended, the glade silent once more, Lyra reverted to her graceful form, breathing heavily. Blood, hers or theirs, stained her white hair, but she smiled at him, triumphant. "See, we are bound. Your strength calls to mine." Eli approached, wiping a smudge from her cheek. "That was incredible. You're amazing." Their eyes met again, the air thick with unspoken desire. In that moment, under the alien stars, Eli felt the pull of something deeper, a romance born from chaos, where a human's heart could entwine with an alien soul. As they pressed on through the night, evading more patrols, Lyra shared stories of her world. The floating cities of Zerathia, now fallen to ruin. The ancient rituals where bonds like theirs were celebrated as sacred. Eli, in turn, spoke of Earth, of oceans that didn't poison, of love stories that spanned mere lifetimes but burned just as bright. By dawn, they reached a hidden cave, its entrance veiled by vines. Inside, bioluminescent fungi cast a soft blue light, creating an intimate sanctuary. Lyra turned to him, her hand on his chest. "You pulled me from the river's gift. Now I am yours to guard." Eli's pulse quickened. "And what if I want more than guarding?" Her lips curved in a sly smile, her pointed ears twitching. "Then ask, human, the stars are watching." But before he could respond, a low growl echoed from deeper in the cave, another threat, or perhaps an ally. The universe, it seemed, wasn't done testing them yet. Eli froze, his hand instinctively reaching for his blaster, but Lyra placed a gentle finger on his lips, her golden eyes narrowing as she listened to the growl. It wasn't hostile, she assured him with a whisper. It was one of her kind, a fellow exile drawn by the scent of battle. As the figure emerged from the shadows, a smaller foxskin with similar features but scarred from years of survival, Lyra greeted her in a tongue that sounded like wind through leaves. The newcomer, Nara, eyed Eli warily but nodded at Lyra's explanation. "A human savior? Rare indeed. The invaders grow bolder. They've breached the outer enclaves." Together, the 3 plotted their next move, to reach the heart of Zerathia, where ancient tech could repel the Xandor fleet. But as Nara scouted ahead, Lyra pulled Eli aside, her body close in the confined space. "Do not fear," she murmured, her breath warm against his ear. "Our bond grows stronger with every trial." Eli felt it too, the magnetic pull. The way her presence ignited something primal in him, he cupped her face, tracing the curve of her jaw, marveling at her beauty. "You're not just a guardian, Lyra, you're everything I didn't know I needed." Their kiss was tentative at first, a brush of lips that exploded into passion. Her taste was sweet, like forbidden fruit from a distant orchard, and her arms wrapped around him with a possessiveness that thrilled him. In that cave, amid the glow of fungi, they explored the boundaries of their connection, hands roaming over clothes still damp from the river. But duty called. Nara returned with news of a path through the dangerous forests, teeming with mutated beasts. As they set out, Eli walked hand in hand with Lyra, the weight of the galaxy on their shoulders, yet lightened by the promise of what lay between them. The forest was a labyrinth of wonders and horrors, vines that moved like serpents, flowers that sang lullabies to lure prey, and in the distance, the roar of Xandor dropships. Lyra's abilities shone here. She shifted forms to scout ahead, her fox-like agility allowing her to leap from branch to branch, her senses detecting ambushes before they struck. One such ambush came at midday, when a pack of bioengineered wolves, creations of the same labs that had altered Lyra, surrounded them. The beasts were massive, their fur matted with glowing veins, eyes red with rage. Nara fought valiantly, her claws flashing, but it was Lyra who turned the tide. She morphed into a larger, more ferocious version of herself, her body elongating, muscles rippling under her pale skin. With a roar that echoed through the trees, she charged, tearing into the pack with precision and fury. Eli joined the fray, his blaster barking shots that stunned the creatures, giving Lyra openings to strike. "Behind you!" he shouted as one wolf lunged at her back. She spun, her tail sweeping it off its feet, and Eli finished it with a well-aimed blast. When the dust settled, the forest floor littered with defeated foes, Lyra reverted, panting but exhilarated. She pulled Eli into an embrace, her body pressed against his, the adrenaline fueling a heated kiss. "You fight like a Zerathian warrior," she breathed. "And you're my miracle," he replied. Lost in her eyes, Nara cleared her throat, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Save the mating rituals for later, we must press on." As they continued, the bond between Eli and Lyra deepened, woven from shared dangers and stolen moments of tenderness. The river's gift had indeed been profound, a love that defied the stars, where a human's courage met an alien's grace. Yet, as they neared the heart of Zerathia, shadows loomed larger, whispers of betrayal among the exiles, and the Xandor leader, a cunning warlord with his own designs on Lyra's power. But for now, in the embrace of the forest, Eli and Lyra walked as one, guardians of each other's hearts. As the canopy thickened around them, the air grew heavier, laced with the musky scent of impending rain and something more primal, the faint, intoxicating aroma that seemed to emanate from Lyra herself. Eli could feel it wrapping around him like an invisible thread, drawing him closer with every step. The forest of Zerathia was alive in ways that Earth's woods could never match. Vines pulsed faintly with inner light, and distant calls echoed like whispers from forgotten lovers. Nara led the way, her form a silent shadow ahead, but Eli's attention was fixed on Lyra, her white hair swaying like a banner of surrender against the emerald gloom. She walked beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his, sending sparks up his arm that had nothing to do with the planet's erratic electromagnetic fields. Since their kiss in the cave, something had shifted between them, an undercurrent of desire that simmered just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to boil over. Eli glanced at her, taking in the way her tattered gown clung to her curves, the fabric translucent in places from the earlier dampness, hinting at the graceful swell of her hips and the subtle rise of her breasts. Her pointed ears twitched at every rustle, alert and endearing, making her seem both vulnerable and untouchably fierce. "You feel it too, don't you?" Lyra murmured, her voice low and husky, as if sharing a secret meant only for the stars. She didn't look at him, but her tail flicked playfully against his leg, a teasing caress that made his breath hitch. Eli swallowed, his throat dry despite the humidity. The danger? Yeah, it's everywhere. But he knew she meant more than that, the pull, the heat building between them like a storm on the horizon. She finally turned her golden eyes on him, a sly smile curving her full lips. "Not just danger, Eli, the bond, it's weaving tighter, pulling us in." Her fingers intertwined with his, her skin soft and warm, yet he could sense the latent power beneath, the same that had shredded those wolves earlier. It thrilled him, this mix of delicacy and strength, making him wonder what it would be like to explore every inch of her, to trace those scars with his touch and hear her gasp his name. They pressed on, the path narrowing into a ravine where the trees arched overhead like jealous guardians. Nara paused ahead, her ears perking up. Scouts nearby. She hissed over her shoulder. Xander drones, we must hide. Ellie's heart pounded as they ducked into a cluster of glowing ferns, the fronds curling around them like living camouflage. Lyra pressed close, her body molding against his in the tight space, her breath warm on his neck. The proximity was electric. He could feel the rapid beat of her heart mirroring his own, her curves fitting perfectly into the contours of his frame. "SHH," she whispered, her lips brushing his ear, sending a shiver straight down his spine. But there was a playful glint in her eye, as if the peril only heightened the intimacy. The drones hummed overhead, their red scanners sweeping the ground like predatory eyes. Eli held his breath, one arm wrapped protectively around Lyra's waist, his hand resting on the small of her back where her tail began. She shifted slightly, intentionally or not, pressing her thigh against his, and he bit back a groan. This was madness, hiding from death while his body betrayed him with thoughts of her, of peeling away that clinging fabric and discovering the secrets it hid. Her scent enveloped him, wild and alluring, making his mind fog with images of tangled limbs and shared sighs under alien skies. Minutes stretched into eternity as the drones passed, their mechanical whir fading into the distance. Nara signaled the all-clear, but Lyra lingered, her face inches from his. "You tremble," she noted, her voice a velvet tease. "Is it fear, or something else?" Eli met her gaze, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek, thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "Something else," he admitted, his voice rough with restraint. He leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that started slow but ignited like a fusion reactor. She responded eagerly, her hands sliding up his chest, nails grazing through his shirt in a way that made his skin tingle. Her tongue danced with his, tasting of sweet nectar and untamed wilderness, and he pulled her closer, feeling the heat of her body seep through their clothes. Nara's impatient cough broke the moment, but not before Lyra nipped at his lower lip, a promise of more. "Later," she breathed, her eyes dark with desire. "When we're safe." As they emerged and continued, the forest seemed to conspire with their tension. Twisting roots forced them to navigate carefully, bodies brushing in accidental intimacies that left Eli aching. Lyra shared more about her past in hushed tones, her words painting pictures of Zerathia's opulent courts where beings like her were once revered as consorts to warriors, their bonds sealed in rituals of touch and trust. "We don't love lightly," she explained, her fingers trailing lightly down his arm. "Once claimed, it's for life, body and soul." Eli imagined it, her lithe form arching under him, those golden eyes locked on his as they surrendered to the pull. But suspense hung in the air like the gathering clouds. Nara warned of traps ahead, remnants of the experiments that had created Lyra. "The lab's defenses," she said. "Automated sentries that sense life force. They don't distinguish friend from foe." The first trap sprung without warning, a web of energy vines that lashed out, wrapping around Nara's leg and yanking her upward. She snarled, claws slashing, but the vines tightened, pulsing with electric charge. Lyra shifted instantly, her body elongating into her battle form, muscles coiling like springs. "Eli, cover me," she commanded, leaping into the fray. He fired his blaster at the vine's base, the shot sizzling against the reinforced fibers. Lyra tore at them with feral grace, her movements a blur of white hair and flashing claws. But one vine whipped toward Eli, forcing him to dodge, rolling into Lyra's path. They collided in a tangle of limbs, her enhanced strength pinning him momentarily, her face hovering above his, breath coming in hot pants. Even in the chaos, the contact was charged. Her body pressed against him, curves yielding yet powerful, igniting a fire that battled the adrenaline. With a final rip, she freed Nara, the vines retreating into the ground. As they caught their breath, Lyra helped Eli up, her touch lingering on his hips. "You fight well for a human," she purred, but her eyes held a deeper hunger, one that mirrored his own growing need. Deeper into the ravine, the air grew thicker, the bioluminescent glow casting shadows that danced like lovers in the night. They found a brief respite by a small, crystal-clear pool fed by an underground spring, untouched by the river's toxins. Nara scouted the perimeter, giving them a rare moment alone. Lyra dipped her hands into the water, splashing her face, the droplets tracing rivulets down her neck and into the valley between her breasts. Eli watched, mesmerized, his gaze following the path with unabashed longing. "Come," she invited, her voice a sultry invitation. "The water cleanses more than skin." He knelt beside her, cupping water to drink, but she turned, her wet fingers tracing his jawline, leaving trails of cool fire. "Let me," she whispered, leaning in to kiss him again, deeper this time, her hands exploring the planes of his chest, slipping under his shirt to feel the warmth of his skin. He groaned into her mouth, his own hands roaming her back, fingers tangling in her hair, pulling her closer until she straddled his lap by the pool's edge. The erotic tension built like a crescendo. Her hips ground against his subtly, eliciting a gasp from them both. Her pointed ears flushed with color, a sign of arousal in her kind, and she whispered Zerathian endearments that translated in his mind as promises of ecstasy. Ellie's hands slid down her sides, thumbs brushing the undersides of her breasts through the fabric, feeling her nipples harden at his touch. She arched into him, her tail wrapping around his waist possessively, holding him in place as their kisses grew more urgent, tongues entwining in a dance that mimicked what their bodies craved. But suspense intruded. A distant explosion rocked the ground, echoes of Xandor artillery bombarding nearby ruins. Nara rushed back, urgency in her eyes. "They're closing in, we must move now." Lyra pulled away reluctantly, her lips swollen and eyes glazed with unfulfilled desire. "This isn't over," she vowed, helping him stand, their bodies still humming with the nearness. As they hurried on, the path ascending toward the heart of Zerathia, Ellie's mind raced with the thrill of it all, the danger sharpening the edges of their attraction, making every glance, every touch, a spark in the powder keg. Whispers of betrayal lingered in his thoughts. Nara had mentioned exiles who might sell them out for favor with the invaders. Could they trust her fully, or was she leading them into a trap? The forest gave way to ancient ruins, crumbling spires overgrown with vines that glowed ominously. Here, the air thrummed with residual energy from the old labs, and Lyra's senses heightened, her body tensing in a way that made her even more alluring, poised, ready, a predator in elegant form. They navigated the debris carefully, avoiding pressure plates that could trigger more defenses. In one shadowed alcove, they paused to consult a holographic map Eli projected from his wrist device. Lyra leaned over his shoulder, her breath on his neck, her breast brushing his arm innocently or not. "The core is close," she said, her voice laced with excitement and something deeper. "But so are they." Eli nodded, but his focus wavered as her hand rested on his thigh, a subtle squeeze that sent heat pooling in his core. "Lyra?" he warned, half-hearted. She chuckled softly, a sound that vibrated through him. "Patience, my mate, the bond demands it, but the wait makes it sweeter." Another patrol forced them into hiding, this time behind a fallen pillar. Pressed together in the narrow space, their bodies aligned perfectly. Eli could feel every curve, every hitch in her breath. The erotic undercurrent was undeniable. Suspense weaving through it like threads in a tapestry. Would they be discovered? Or would this moment lead to surrender? The soldiers passed, oblivious, and as they emerged, Lyra stole a quick, heated kiss, her hand sliding daringly low before pulling back with a wink. "For luck," she teased. Deeper into the ruins, the stakes rose. A larger force ambushed them, Xandor elites, armored in sleek black suits, weapons trained. Lyra shifted seamlessly, her form becoming a whirlwind of claws and fury, protecting Eli with a ferocity that stirred his soul. He fought beside her, blaster firing, their synergy perfect. Like lovers in sync, Nara flanked the enemies, but in the chaos, Eli spotted a hesitation in her movements, a glance toward the invaders that seemed too calculated. Suspicion bloomed, adding layers to the tension. Was betrayal at hand? As the battle waned, Lyra pinned the last soldier, her enhanced strength holding him down. She looked to Eli, sweat glistening on her pale skin, making her glow like a goddess. "We prevail," she said, but her eyes promised more. A night of passion once safety was won. They bound the captive for questioning, the ruins now silent but for their heavy breaths. The erotic pull between them lingered, suspense building toward whatever lay in Zerathia's heart. Eli knew one thing. With Lyra by his side, he was ready for it all. The captive Xandor soldier squirmed against his bonds, his reptilian scales glistening with sweat under the flickering lights of the ruins. Eli knelt before him, his blaster holstered but ready, while Lyra paced like a caged storm. Her golden eyes narrowed into slits of barely contained fury. Nara stood watch at the alcove's edge, her form tense, ears twitching at every distant echo. The air hummed with residual energy from the battle, charged particles dancing like fireflies in the dim glow. But the real electricity crackled between Eli and Lyra, unresolved heat from their stolen moments, now sharpened by the adrenaline of survival. "Who sent you?" Eli demanded, his voice steady but laced with the edge of a man pushed to his limits. The soldier hissed, forked tongue flicking out, but said nothing. Lyra stepped forward, her claws extending just enough to glint threateningly. "Answer him," she growled, her voice a low rumble that vibrated through the stone floor. "Or I'll peel those scales one by one." The soldier's eyes darted to Nara, a fleeting glance that Eli caught like a spark in the dark. Suspicion flared anew in his chest. Why her? But before he could voice it, the captive spat a guttural laugh. "You think you're safe here, human? The heart of Zerathia beats with secrets you can't comprehend. My lord knows of the foxskin weapon and the traitor in your midst." Traitor, the word hung in the air like a blade poised to fall. Lyra whirled on Nara, her body shifting partially into her battle form, muscles rippling, tail lashing. "What does he mean?" she snarled, the accusation raw and electric. Nara backed up a step, her own claws unsheathing defensively. "Lies, Xandor filth always twists words to sow discord." But her voice wavered, just a fraction, and Eli's instincts screamed. He rose slowly, positioning himself between the two foxskin, his hand inching toward his blaster. The ruins seemed to close in, the ancient walls whispering echoes of long-forgotten betrayals, amplifying the drama unfolding in their shadows. A sudden tremor shook the ground, dust sifting from the ceiling like ominous snow. Alarms blared in Eli's mind. Another ambush? Or something worse? The captive grinned wider. Too late, the core awakens. Without warning, the floor beneath them cracked open, a hidden mechanism triggered by some unseen signal. Eli grabbed Lyra's arm, yanking her back as a chasm yawned wide, swallowing the bound soldier in a cascade of rubble. Nara leaped aside, but not before a tendril of energy from the depths lashed out, grazing her leg and sending her crumpling with a yelp. Lyra's eyes widened in shock, her form fully shifting now, claws digging into the stone to steady herself. The lab's defenses, they're activating. Thrilling chaos erupted. From the chasm rose mechanical guardians, sleek, spider-like drones forged from Zerathia's forbidden tech, their limbs ending in plasma blades that hummed with lethal intent. Red sensors scanned the intruders, locking onto Eli first as the alien anomaly. He dodged a slashing strike, rolling across the uneven floor, heart pounding like a war drum. "Lyra, flank them!" She was already in motion, a blur of white and gold, leaping onto the nearest drone with primal grace. Her claws raked across its chassis, sparks flying as she tore into its core. But there were more, 5, 6, emerging from hidden compartments in the walls, their movements synchronized in a deadly ballet. Nara, limping but fierce, joined the fray, slashing at one that targeted Eli's back. "We must reach the control chamber," she shouted over the din. "It's the only way to shut them down." Eli fired his blaster in rapid bursts, the shots ricocheting off armored plates but finding weak joints, disabling one drone in a shower of circuits. The battle was a whirlwind of motion and sound, metal screeching against stone, Lyra's roars blending with the drone's mechanical whines. He felt the thrill of it surge through him, a human outmatched yet unyielding, his earth-born tenacity turning the tide. But curiosity gnawed. Why had the defenses activated now? And that glance from the soldier? In a surprising twist, as Lyra dismantled another drone, a holographic projection flickered to life from its wreckage, a ghostly image of a regal figure, cloaked in shadows, with features eerily similar to the foxskin but twisted by cybernetic enhancements. "Lyra," the hologram intoned, voice distorted yet familiar. "My creation, return to me and the human lives." Lyra froze mid-strike, her enhanced form trembling. "Father?" The word escaped her lips like a wound reopening, dramatic revelation hanging in the charged air. Eli's head snapped toward her, shock rippling through him. Father, the architect of the experiments, the one who'd turned her into this weapon, he was alive and controlling the Xandor invasion. The hologram laughed, a cold, echoing sound. "Yes, daughter, I forged you for greatness, not to cavort with inferior species. The traitor has led you here, as planned." All eyes turned to Nara, who backed away, guilt etching her scarred face. "I had no choice. He promised to reverse the experiments, to free us all." Betrayal exploded like a supernova. Nara, their ally, had been the snake in the garden, feeding intel to the very monster who'd created the horrors of Zerathia. Thrilling fury ignited in Lyra's eyes. She lunged at Nara, but the drones intervened, one slamming into her side and sending her crashing against a pillar. Eli roared, charging forward, his blaster emptying into the machine's sensors, blinding it. "Lyra, hold on." He reached her, helping her up, their bond a lifeline amid the storm. Her touch grounded him, even as pain etched her features. Her white hair matted with dust and blood, Nara, cornered, shifted into her own battle form, claws gleaming. "You don't understand. He's too powerful." But Lyra was beyond words, the climax building as she broke free, tackling Nara in a ferocious clash of kin. Fur flew, claws raked, the two rolling across the floor in a tangle of snarls and strikes. Eli fended off the remaining drones, his shots precise, driven by a protective rage he'd never known. One drone pinned him momentarily, its blade inches from his throat, but he twisted, using his human ingenuity to jam his blaster into its joint and fire point blank, exploding it from within. The hologram watched, amused. Pathetic, the core will consume you all. Another tremor, larger this time, the heart of Zerathia pulsing to life, energy conduits glowing brighter, threatening to overload and bury them in rubble. In a curious turn, as Lyra pinned Nara, forcing a submission, the betrayed foxskin gasped a secret. The override crystal, in the chamber ahead. It's the key to everything: his control, the invasions, even reversing what he did to us. Surprise layered upon surprise. Nara wasn't fully lost, her betrayal born of desperation, not malice. Lyra hesitated, golden eyes searching her kin's face, the drama of forgiveness teetering on a knife's edge. Eli, wiping sweat from his brow, nodded to Lyra. We use it, end this. Together, they bound Nara not as an enemy, but a reluctant ally, and pressed on, the hologram flickering out with a final warning. You cannot escape your destiny. The chamber loomed ahead, a vast dome pulsating with ethereal light, ancient consoles humming with power. But guards awaited, elite Xandar warriors, enhanced with stolen Zerathian tech, their bodies fused with mechanical augmentations. The climax surged as battle reignited, more intense than before. Eli ducked behind a console, firing suppressive shots, while Lyra and Nara, united in redemption, danced through the fray like shadows given form. One warrior charged Eli, its cybernetic arm swinging a vibro axe. He parried with his blaster's stock, the impact jarring his bones, but he countered with a knee to its midsection, human grit prevailing over machine precision. Lyra leaped onto another's back, her claws piercing armor, twisting its neck with a sickening crack. Nara, fueled by guilt, took down two at once, her movements a blur of atonement. Amid the thrill, a surprising ally emerged from the shadows, a small group of foxskin exiles, drawn by the chaos, their eyes wide at seeing Lyra. We followed the bond call, their leader whispered, joining the fight. Curiosity piqued. Lyra's connection to Eli had amplified her abilities, broadcasting a psychic summons to her kind. Humans, it seemed, weren't just survivors, they were catalysts, igniting alliances across stars. The warriors fell, but the core's overload accelerated, consoles sparking, the dome cracking under pressure. Eli raced to the central pedestal, where the override crystal shimmered like a captured star. How do we use it? He shouted over the roar. Lyra joined him, her hand on his, their touch igniting a surge of energy. Together, the bond powers it. As they grasped the crystal, a wave of power coursed through them, dramatic, overwhelming, binding their essences in a thrilling fusion of minds and souls. Visions flashed, Lyra's creation, her father's madness, the Xandar Pact. Surprise upon surprise, he wasn't just her maker. He was an ancient AI, possessing a foxskin body, seeking dominion over the galaxy. With a climactic pulse, they activated the override, the core stabilizing, defenses turning on the invaders. Alarms wailed as Xandar forces retreated, their fleet disrupted from orbit. Lyra's father AI screamed through the speakers, his form destabilizing in holographic agony. No, the human taints you. But it was too late. The chamber quieted, the crystal dimming in their hands. Eli pulled Lyra into an embrace, their breaths mingling, the thrill of victory mingling with the curious promise of what came next. Nara approached, head bowed. Forgive me? Lyra nodded, the drama resolving in tentative peace. Yet, as they stepped toward the exit, a final surprise lingered, a faint signal from the crystal, hinting at greater threats beyond Zerathia. The galaxy was vast, and their bond had only just begun to unfold its mysteries. Exhaustion settled, but so did a deeper connection. Eli looked at Lyra, her pale skin flushed with triumph, elegant form battered but unbroken. We did it, he murmured, curiosity burning about their future. She smiled, tail curling around his leg. And more awaits. As the chamber's ethereal light faded to a gentle hum, the weight of their victory settled over them like a blanket woven from exhaustion and relief. Eli held Lyra close, her body fitting against his with a familiarity that felt both earned and surreal, her white hair tickling his chin as she buried her face in his shoulder. The override crystal, now inert in their joined hands, pulsed once more faintly before going dark, its secrets locked away for another day. Nara lingered a few paces back, her form reverted to its graceful state, the scars of battle and betrayal etched deeper into her expression. The newly arrived fox-skin exiles murmured among themselves, their pointed ears flicking in awe at the human who'd turned the tide. But the air still crackled with unresolved tension, like a storm that had passed but left thunder rumbling on the horizon. Lyra pulled back slightly, her golden eyes searching Eli's face with a mix of tenderness and fire. "You were magnificent," she whispered, her tail curling possessively around his calf. "A true mate, wielding power from the stars themselves." Her words carried a dramatic weight, echoing the ancient rituals she'd described earlier, but Eli couldn't help the wry smile tugging at his lips. Here he was, a scruffy Earth explorer covered in dust and drone scraps, being hailed like some galactic legend. It was almost too much, bordering on absurd, before he could respond. One of the exiles, a wiry foxskin named Vexa, with a mischievous glint in her eyes, stepped forward, bowing dramatically. The bond call was strong. We felt it ripple through the ether, but a human, as Lyra's chosen. She tilted her head, her small elf-like ears perking up curiously, and the group behind her exchanged glances that ranged from admiration to outright skepticism. Drama heightened in the room as whispers spread. "He's not even enhanced, yet he commands the crystal." Eli felt a flush creep up his neck, an awkward heat that had nothing to do with the chamber's residual energy. Being the center of an alien fan club wasn't exactly in his mission briefing. Nara cleared her throat, breaking the moment with a tentative step closer. "Lyra, I never meant for it to go this far." The Father AI promised restoration, a way back to what we were before the experiments. Her voice cracked, adding layers to the emotional storm. Betrayal mingled with desperation, a foxskin torn between loyalty and survival. Lyra's expression softened, but not fully. She released Eli's hand to face her kin, her elegant gown, still torn and clinging in ways that accentuated her sensual curves, swishing with the motion. "Promises from a machine wearing our flesh. You should have known better, sister." The word sister hung heavy, dramatic reconciliation teetering on forgiveness, but Eli sensed the undercurrent of hurt, like a wound that needed time to heal. To lighten the thickening air, Eli interjected with a chuckle, rubbing the back of his neck. "Hey, if we're airing family drama, can we at least do it over some rations? I'm starving, and fighting evil AIs works up an appetite." His attempt at humor landed awkwardly at first. The exiles stared blankly, unaccustomed to human levity, but Vexa snorted, a sound that evolved into a genuine laugh. The human jests, like the old tales of Earth clowns in space. The group relaxed a fraction, chuckles rippling through them, but Lyra shot him a look that was equal parts amused and exasperated, her lips quirking in that sly way that made his pulse quicken. As they gathered what supplies they could from the chamber, scavenged tech, energy cells, and a few holographic maps, drama escalated when the faint signal from the crystal suddenly blared to life again. A new hologram flickered, not the Father AI, but a fragmented message from deeper within Zerathia's network. "Containment breach. Secondary experiments awakening. Evacuate core." The words sent a chill through the group, heightening the stakes as alarms began to wail softly in the distance. Eli's scanner confirmed it, life signs multiplying below them, twisted creations from the lab stirring like nightmares roused from slumber. "We can't leave yet," Lyra declared, her voice resolute, golden eyes blazing with determination. "If these abominations escape, they'll overrun the surface." Zerathia falls. Her tail lashed dramatically, underscoring the peril, but Eli caught the subtle tremble in her hand, the fear of facing more echoes of her own creation. Nara nodded, eager for redemption. "I'll lead a team to seal the lower levels." But as she moved to rally the exiles, an awkward hitch arose. Vexa, pointing at Eli, blurted, "What about him? He's not built for our shifts." One wrong move and poof, human pancake under a collapsing tunnel. Eli bristled, but laughed it off. "Thanks for the vote of confidence. I've survived worse than squishy tunnels like that time I outran a sandworm on Vega Prime. Slippery bugger, but hey, I'm still here." The humor diffused the tension, drawing smirks from the exiles, but it masked his own unease. Being the fragile human in a pack of super-powered foxskin was starting to feel like the punchline to a bad joke. Lyra squeezed his arm reassuringly, her touch lingering a beat too long, sending a warm spark through him that clashed with the impending doom. They split into groups, heightening the drama as Eli, Lyra, and a handful of exiles, including the ever-skeptical Vexa, descended into the sublevels via a rickety lift shaft. The air grew thicker, laced with the metallic tang of old experiments, and awkward situations piled on when the lift jammed halfway down, groaning like an overworked beast. "Great," Eli muttered, prying at the controls. Stuck in a metal box with a bunch of fox ladies who could probably bench press me. No pressure. Lyra pressed close in the confined space, her body heat a distracting comfort, while Vexa quipped, "At least you're cute for a squishy one. If we die here, I'll tell the ancestors you tried." The group erupted in nervous laughter, the humor a thin shield against the creaks and distant roars echoing from below. Lyra's hand found his in the dim light, her fingers intertwining with a possessiveness that made his heart stutter. "We'll get through this," she murmured, her breath warm against his ear, but the moment turned awkward when Vexa cleared her throat loudly. "Bonding time later, lovebirds, unless you want to demonstrate human mating rituals for educational purposes." Ili's face burned, a flush spreading as the exiles snickered, and even Lyra's pointed ears tinted pink, a rare sign of embarrassment in her kind. "Vexa," she hissed, but there was a sparkle in her eyes, the humor lightening the dread. With a final heave, Ili's tech know-how combined with Lyra's enhanced strength, they forced the doors open, tumbling into a corridor alive with flickering emergency lights. Drama surged as the first abomination appeared, a hulking fusion of foxskin traits and mechanical horrors, its body twisted with glowing implants, eyes mad with pain. It charged, roaring a challenge that shook the walls. Lyra shifted seamlessly, meeting it head-on in a clash of claws and fury, her white hair whipping like a banner in battle. Ili provided cover fire, his blaster shots precise, but the creature's armor deflected most, forcing him to dodge wildly. "A little help," he yelled, sliding behind a console as a massive paw swiped inches from his head. Vexa leaped in with acrobatic flair, her claws raking the beast's flank, but it backhanded her into a wall with a thud that elicited a pained groan. "Oof, that's gonna leave a mark," she wheezed, injecting humor even in agony. Note to self, avoid the ugly ones. The levity spurred them on, heightening the thrill as more creatures emerged, a pack of smaller, scuttling hybrids. Their forms a grotesque parody of elegance, with tails that ended in stinging barbs. The fight intensified, drama building with every strike. Lyra pinned one, her muscles straining under her pale skin, but another latched onto her back, its barbs piercing her shoulder. She cried out, the sound piercing Ili like a dagger. "No!" He surged forward, tackling the creature off her with sheer human momentum, rolling across the floor in a tangle of limbs and machinery. Up close, it was awkward and terrifying, its hot breath reeking of chemicals, its body squirming unnaturally. He jammed his blaster into a joint and fired, the explosion sending shrapnel flying and him sprawling, covered in gooey residue. "Ugh, alien slime, because my day wasn't gross enough," he quipped, wiping his face as Lyra helped him up, her concern morphing into a relieved laugh. Together, they pressed deeper, the corridor narrowing into a labyrinth of labs where failed experiments lay in stasis pods, frozen horrors that began to thaw as systems failed. An awkward predicament arose when they triggered a security lockdown, sealing them in a room with rising toxic gas. "This is not how I pictured our first date," Ili joked, coughing as he hacked the console, Lyra's hand on his shoulder for support. Her proximity, even in peril, stirred that familiar heat, but Vex's voice crackled over comms from the other side. "Hurry up, human, or we'll have to mourn you with a funny epitaph, died gassy and heroic." The humor kept spirits up, but the drama peaked as the gas reached knee-height, visions blurring. Lyra's eyes met his, golden depths filled with unspoken fears. "If this is the end," she started, voice thick with emotion, but Ili shook his head, fingers flying over the keys. "Not today, I've got too many bad jokes left." With a triumphant beep, the doors hissed open, fresh air rushing in. They escaped, gasping and laughing in equal measure, the awkward near-miss bonding them tighter. Reuniting with Nara's group, who had sealed off side tunnels, the full scope of the threat revealed itself. The Father AI had a backup node, hidden in the depths, rallying the remaining abominations for a final assault. Drama heightened as holographic warnings blared. "You cannot destroy what I built. Zerathia is mine." Ili, covered in slime and bruises, stood tall among the foxskin, his human resilience a beacon. "Then we'll improvise," he said, a humorous glint in his eye. "After all, us Earthlings are great at winging it." As they geared up for the plunge into the AI's lair, awkward tension simmered, Nara's redemption arc clashing with wary glances from the exiles, and Ili's budding romance with Lyra drawing teasing whispers. Vexa nudged him. "So, does bonding with a foxskin involve tail tricks?" Ili sputtered, face reddening, while Lyra swatted her playfully. "Mind your manners, or I'll demonstrate on you." The laughter echoed, a humorous respite before the storm. Deeper they went, the air pulsing with energy, drama coiling like a spring. The backup node loomed, a massive chamber throbbing with red light, guarded by elite abominations, cybernetic behemoths with fox-like agility amplified by tech. The battle erupted in a symphony of chaos, Lyra leading the charge, her form a whirlwind, claws flashing as she dismantled one guardian, but taking a hit that sent her skidding. Eli rushed to her side, shielding her with his body as another attacked. "Stay with me," he urged, the words dramatic and heartfelt. Nara redeemed herself spectacularly, diving in to intercept, her claws severing cables that powered the beasts. Vexa provided comic relief, quipping mid-flip. "These things fight like drunk asteroids, big, slow, and predictable." But humor faded as the AI's voice boomed. "Foolish child, witness true power." The node activated, energy tendrils lashing out, ensnaring the group in awkward, immobilizing grips, Eli dangling upside down, Lyra twisted midair, her gown hiked embarrassingly high. "Really? Tentacle trouble?" Eli groaned, wriggling futilely, the situation absurdly dramatic. "I thought that was just in bad sci-fi holovids." Lyra, despite the peril, managed a laugh. "Focus, mate, use the crystal." In his pocket, the override hummed, responding to their bond. With a surge of will, he channeled it, the tendrils recoiling as power reversed. Freed, they converged on the node, destroying it in a climactic explosion of light and sparks. As debris settled, the threats neutralized, Eli pulled Lyra into a kiss passionate, dramatic, awkward with the exiles watching. Vexa wolf whistled. "Get a chamber, you two." In the aftermath, bonds strengthened, humor weaving through the drama like a lifeline. Zerathia was safe, but the galaxy beckoned with new mysteries. Eli, arm around Lyra, felt ready, awkward human hero and all. As the echoes of the explosion faded into a distant rumble, the chamber fell into a hushed stillness, broken only by the soft whirs of settling machinery and the labored breaths of the victors. Eli's arm remained firmly around Lyra's waist, her body pressed against his in the aftermath of their shared triumph, her warmth seeping through the remnants of her gown like a promise fulfilled. The exiles, including Vexa and Nara, began to assess the damage, picking through debris for usable tech, their voices a low murmur of relief and strategy. But for Eli and Lyra, the world narrowed to just the two of them, the bond that had powered the crystal now humming between their skin like an unspoken invitation. Lyra tilted her head up, her golden eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his heart skip. "We did it, Eli, together." Her voice was soft, laced with a husky undertone that stirred something deep within him, a reminder of the heated moments they'd stolen amid the chaos. The air around them felt charged, the red glow of the node dimming to a softer amber that cast flattering shadows across her pale features, highlighting the elegant curve of her neck and the subtle rise and fall of her chest. He nodded, his free hand coming up to brush a strand of white hair from her face, his thumb lingering on her cheek. "Couldn't have without you. You're incredible." The words felt inadequate, but the way her pointed ears flushed slightly, a telltale sign he'd come to recognize, told him she understood. Vexa, ever the instigator, called out from across the room with a grin, "Hey, heroes, if you're done gazing soulfully, we could use a hand over here, unless you need a private moment to celebrate." The exiles chuckled, but Nara shushed them gently, her own expression softening as she glanced away. Giving them a semblance of space in the vast chamber, Eli felt a flush creep up his own neck, but Lyra's sly smile only deepened, her tail curling around his leg in that possessive way that sent a thrill through him. "Perhaps we do," she murmured, just loud enough for him to hear, her fingers tracing light patterns on his arm that left trails of warmth. The suggestion hung between them, heightening the intimate tension that had been building since the river. The immediate threats vanquished, the galaxy's mysteries could wait a little longer. Right now, the pull of their connection demanded attention. She took his hand, leading him toward a side alcove partially shielded by fallen pillars and flickering consoles, a makeshift sanctuary amid the ruins. The exiles busied themselves elsewhere, respecting the unspoken need for privacy, though Vex's parting quip echoed faintly, "Don't break anything else." Eli chuckled under his breath, the humor easing any lingering awkwardness as they slipped into the shadows. The alcove was dimly lit by bioluminescent vines that had survived the blast, casting a gentle, ethereal glow that made Lyra's skin shimmer like moonlight on water. Once alone, the atmosphere shifted, becoming thicker with anticipation. Lyra turned to face him fully, her body close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her, her scent a wild blend of jasmine and something electric enveloping him. "Our bond, it's more than protection," she whispered, her hand sliding up his chest, fingers deftly working at the fastenings of his suit. "It's a union, body and soul, let me show you." Her words were inviting, not demanding, and Eli felt his resolve melt under her gaze, his own hands moving to her waist, pulling her nearer. Their kiss started slow, a tender exploration that quickly deepened as pent-up emotions surged forward. Lyra's lips were soft and yielding, parting to welcome him with a warmth that made his head spin. He backed her gently against the cool stone wall, mindful of her earlier injuries, but she arched into him, her curves pressing against his frame in a way that ignited every nerve. Her tail wrapped around his thigh, holding him in place as if to say he was hers, and the sensation was both novel and exhilarating, adding a layer of intimacy unique to her kind. Eli's hands roamed her back, tracing the elegant lines of her form through the thin fabric of her gown, feeling the subtle play of muscles beneath her smooth skin. She sighed into his mouth, a soft sound that encouraged him, her own fingers exploring the contours of his shoulders and down his sides, tugging at his clothing with gentle urgency. Piece by piece, barriers fell away, revealing the vulnerability and beauty beneath the graceful swell of her hips, the soft invitation of her body that seemed perfectly attuned to his touch. In the quiet of the alcove, they moved together with a rhythm born of their bond, a dance of discovery and connection. Lyra's enhanced senses made every caress more profound. She responded to his every move with whispers of encouragement, her golden eyes half-lidded in bliss. Eli marveled at her, the way her white hair cascaded like a silken waterfall as she tilted her head back, exposing the delicate column of her throat. He pressed kisses there, feeling her pulse quicken under his lips, her hands guiding him with a mix of tenderness and passion. The experience was a blend of gentleness and intensity, their bodies finding harmony in the shared rhythm. Lyra's tail added playful elements, brushing against him in ways that heightened the sensations, drawing soft laughs from them both amid the fervor. It was a celebration of life after so much peril, a reaffirmation of the link that had saved Zerathia. Eli lost himself in the moment, the world outside fading to irrelevance as they explored the depths of their affection, each touch building toward a shared crescendo of release and unity. Time seemed to stretch, the alcove becoming their private universe where vulnerabilities were shared and strengths celebrated. Lyra's breaths came in sync with his, her form arching in response to his attentions. And when the peak arrived, it was a wave of warmth and connection that left them both breathless. Clinging to each other in the afterglow, she rested her head on his chest, her pointed ears brushing his skin, a contented hum vibrating from her throat like a purr. "That was the true gift of the river," she murmured, her voice laced with satisfaction and a hint of wonder. Eli held her close, his fingers threading through her hair, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his. "More than I ever imagined," he replied, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. The intimacy had deepened their bond, weaving threads of trust and desire that felt unbreakable. But even in this serene aftermath, the galaxy's call lingered subtly. Faint sounds from the main chamber reminded them of their allies, and Lyra stirred, her tail uncurling reluctantly. "We should rejoin them soon," she said, though her eyes sparkled with the promise of more such moments. Eli nodded, helping her adjust her gown with careful hands, their touches lingering as they dressed. The awkwardness of emerging from their hideaway loomed, but it was tempered by the quiet joy they shared. As they stepped back into the light, the exiles greeted them with knowing smiles, Vexa winking exaggeratedly, Nara offering a nod of quiet approval. The group had secured the node fully, downloading data that hinted at broader threats across the stars, whispers of other AI enclaves, alliances forming in distant systems. Drama simmered anew, but now infused with hope. Eli glanced at Lyra, her hand slipping into his, and felt a surge of readiness. Their union had not only saved the day but forged a partnership capable of facing whatever came next. Yet, as they planned their extraction to the surface, a curious anomaly appeared on the consoles, an encrypted signal from Earth, routed through Zerathia's relays. Eli's scanner beeped, displaying coordinates for a hidden outpost. "Looks like our adventure's just getting started," he said, squeezing Lyra's hand. She leaned into him, her body a comforting presence. "Good, I wouldn't have it any other way." The group moved out, bonds stronger, humor and heart carrying them forward. Zerathia's heart beat steadily now, a testament to their victory, but the stars held secrets that beckoned, promising more trials, more connections, and perhaps more stolen moments in the shadows. As the group forged ahead through the winding corridors toward the surface, the faint beeps from Eli's scanner punctuated the rhythmic footfalls of their boots on the ancient stone. Lyra's hand remained entwined with his, her fingers warm and reassuring. A silent anchor in the dim glow of emergency lights that flickered like distant stars. The exiles chatted softly ahead, Vexa spinning exaggerated tales of their battle to lighten the mood. Nara walking with a newfound purpose, her steps measured as if each one mended the fractures of her earlier choices. The air grew fresher with every level they ascended, carrying hints of the forest above, earthy moss and the subtle tang of rain-soaked leaves. Eli glanced at the holographic display on his wrist, the encrypted Earth signal pulsing insistently, its coordinates pointing to an outpost hidden in Zerathia's northern ridges. "This could be our ticket out," he said, his voice carrying a note of optimism that masked the curiosity gnawing at him. What could Earth want now, after all this? Lyra leaned in, her white hair brushing his shoulder, her golden eyes reflecting the scanner's blue hue. "Your homeworld calls. Does it stir something in you? A longing?" Her tail brushed his leg affectionately, a gentle reminder of the intimacy they'd shared moments ago, the way their bodies had moved in perfect harmony, forging a connection that felt as vast as the cosmos itself. Eli squeezed her hand, feeling the echo of that warmth in his chest. "Maybe, but right now, home feels like wherever you are." The words came easily, laced with truth, and she rewarded him with a soft smile, her pointed ears twitching in that endearing way that made his heart swell. They emerged into a larger antechamber, ruins giving way to a vaulted space where vines had reclaimed the walls, weaving intricate patterns that glowed faintly under the penetrating shafts of daylight from cracks above. The group paused to regroup, sharing water from canteens and patching minor wounds with salvaged medkits. Nara approached tentatively, her scarred face softened by gratitude. "Ili, without your ingenuity with that crystal, we'd be lost. Thank you." He nodded, clapping her on the shoulder. "We're in this together now, no more shadows." Vexa tossed him a ration bar with a wink. "Yeah, human, you've earned your keep. Just don't go getting all sentimental on us, save that for your fox mate." Laughter rippled through the exiles, a brief respite that eased the lingering aches from battle. But Eli's focus drifted back to the signal. He activated the decoder, the device humming as it unraveled the encryption layer by layer. Lyra watched curiously, her head tilted. "What does it say? Allies? Reinforcements?" The coordinates sharpened on the display, overlaying a map of Zerathia with pinpoint accuracy. "It's from the Alliance Command," Ili murmured, his brow furrowing. "High priority. They're sending a retrieval team to these coords, but there's more: attached files, schematics." He tapped to open them, expecting routine updates or extraction protocols. Instead, a holographic dossier unfolded in the air before them, projecting classified documents that made his blood run cold. The first file was a mission briefing, stamped with the Interstellar Alliance's emblem, a stylized Earth encircled by stars. But as the text scrolled, the words hit like a meteor strike. Operative Eli Hawthorne, primary objective: locate and neutralize Zerathian AI core to disable planetary defenses. Secondary, acquire genetic samples from indigenous hybrids for enhancement programs. Colonization fleet en route, ETA 48 hours post-confirmation. Eli stared, his mind reeling, the chamber suddenly feeling too small, the air too thick. This couldn't be right. He'd been sent as an explorer, a scout, not a saboteur, or had he? Flashes of memory surfaced unbidden. Pre-mission briefings on Earth, vague directives about strategic assets, the way his superiors had emphasized discretion. Had he known? Suppressed it? Lyra's hand tightened on his arm, her enhanced senses picking up the shift in his heartbeat, the subtle spike in adrenaline. "Ili, what is it?" Her voice was steady, but concern edged it like a blade. The exiles fell silent, gathering around the projection, their faces paling as they pieced together the implications. Vexa whispered a curse in Zerathian, her ears flattening. "Your people, they're coming to take our world?" Nara's eyes widened, betrayal flickering anew, not from within, but from the stars themselves. Ili's world tilted, the powerful twist unraveling everything he thought he knew. The signal wasn't a lifeline, it was a confession. The Father AI hadn't been a rogue monster, it had been a guardian, erected by Zerathia's ancient inhabitants to ward off threats like this. And Eli, unwittingly or not, had been the key to dismantling it. "No," he breathed, shaking his head as if to dispel the hologram. I didn't." But the files continued scrolling, revealing more. Psych evaluations labeling him as ideal for deep cover, memory implants to ensure loyalty, and worst of all, a directive to eliminate any complications, including bonds with locals. Lyra's face drained of color, her golden eyes searching his, hurt blooming like a wound. "You knew about the invasion?" The surprise hit the group like a shockwave, murmurs turning to gasps. Eli stepped back, hands raised, desperation clawing at him. I swear, I didn't remember. They must have buried it in my subconscious, hypno-conditioning or something. The bond. With you, it must have cracked it open. His voice cracked, the drama escalating as tears welled in his eyes. How could he explain? The man who'd pulled her from the river, fought by her side, shared his soul with hers, that was real. But this revelation painted him as the villain, a human pawn in a game of cosmic conquest. HFY Tales from Earth glorified humanity's indomitable spirit, but here, it twisted into something darker, ambition unchecked, turning explorers into conquerors. Lyra released his hand, her tail coiling tightly around her own leg, a defensive posture he'd never seen before. The river's gift, was it all a lie? Did you save me to gain trust, to infiltrate? Her words stung, laced with pain, but beneath it, a flicker of doubt, as if she couldn't fully believe it either. The exiles tensed, claws half extended, loyalty fracturing. Vexa looked between them, conflicted. If he's a spy, we end him here. Nara, ironically the voice of reason after her own fall, held up a hand. Wait, the bond doesn't lie. I felt it too, the call that brought us. It's real. Eli dropped to his knees, the hologram flickering mockingly above him, displaying fleet trajectories arrowing toward Zerathia. Please, Lyra, I love you. That wasn't programmed. It's me, we can stop this, warn your people, rally defenses. His mind raced, piecing together the twist's implications. The AI's warnings, the experiments, they'd been preparations against human expansion, not madness. Humanity, in its quest to unite the galaxy, had become the monster. The surprise deepened as another file unlocked. Personal logs from Eli's handler, revealing he'd volunteered for the memory wipe to ensure mission success. Driven by a past loss, his family's death in a border skirmish, fueling a blind patriotism now crumbling under the weight of truth, Lyra knelt before him, her elegant form trembling, hands cupping his face. Show me, she whispered, her forehead pressing to his. Through their bond, enhanced by the crystal's residual energy, visions flowed, Eli's true memories surfacing like buried artifacts, signing on for the mission in grief. The hypno session erasing doubts, his genuine shock at finding her in the river. No deception there, only compassion. But intertwined were the Alliance's plans, ships laden with colonists, weapons to pacify resistance. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mingling with his. They come to destroy us, your own kind. The chamber erupted in urgent discussion, the twist galvanizing them. Vexa hacked into the console, confirming the fleet's approach via intercepted comms. 2 days, have time but barely. Nara rallied the exiles. We evacuate the enclaves, activate fallback defenses. But Eli, rising with renewed fire, proposed the unthinkable. I can contact them. Pretend the mission succeeded, by time, then, we fight back. His voice steadied, humanity's strength shining through, not in conquest, but in redemption. Lyra's eyes met his, forgiveness budding amid the pain. Together, but if you betray us, I won't, he vowed, pulling her into an embrace that sealed their fractured bond anew. The surprise had shattered illusions, but in its wake, a fiercer alliance formed. As they hurried to the surface, plans forming like stars aligning, Eli felt the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. The twist had taken him by surprise most of all, revealing not just the enemy without, but the conflicts within. Zerathia wasn't just a planet anymore, it was home, and he'd defend it with every breath. Yet, as they breached the forest canopy, the first distant rumble of engines echoed from the skies, not Xandor remnants, but the vanguard of the Alliance fleet, arriving sooner than expected. Alarms blared from Eli's scanner. Anomaly detected, temporal distortion. The twist deepened further. The crystal's activation had warped time, compressing days into hours. The invasion wasn't coming, it was here. Panic surged, but Lyra's hand in his grounded him. We adapt, like you humans always do. They raced toward the outpost, exiles fanning out to warn others, the forest alive with urgency. Eli's mind whirled with strategies: hack the fleet systems, use the AI's remnants against them, leverage the bond to unite Foxskin across the planet. The surprise had transformed him from unwitting tool to defiant hero, his love for Lyra the catalyst. In the chaos, stolen glances between them carried promises. Their union would endure, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. As drop pods streaked across the sky like falling stars, Eli activated his comms, feigning success to his handlers. Core neutralized, awaiting extraction. The lie bought precious minutes, but the real battle loomed. Humanity's fuck yes spirit? It was about to be tested like never before, not in domination, but in choosing love over legacy, the group reached the outpost, a camouflaged bunker nestled in rocky cliffs, bursting inside to arm themselves with scavenged weapons. Lyra shifted partially, her form radiating power, while Eli interfaced with the systems, uncovering more files. The Alliance's true motive, Zerathia's unique energy source, capable of powering endless expansion. But the twist's final layer emerged as he dug deeper. The Father AI had been human-designed, a prototype sent decades ago, gone sentient and protective of its adopted world. Eli's father in the mission logs, the same scientist who'd created it, his actual grandfather, long presumed dead. Mind blown, Eli shared the revelation, the surprise rippling through the group like a wave. "We're fighting my family's legacy." Lyra pulled him close, her lips brushing his in a fierce kiss. "Then rewrite it." United, they prepared for the storm, the twist forging them into something unbreakable. The listeners' surprise mirrored Eli's. Nothing was as it seemed. Yet everything led to this moment of truth. As the bunker doors sealed behind them with a resounding thud, the dim interior lights hummed to life, casting long shadows across the cluttered space filled with dusty consoles, weapon racks, and scattered relics from Zerathia's forgotten era. Eli's mind still reeled from the revelation, his grandfather's face staring back from the holographic logs like a ghost from a family album he'd never known existed, stern eyes, a lab coat stained with the ambition that had birthed the AI monster. Lyra's kiss lingered on his lips, a fierce spark that grounded him amid the whirlwind, her body close as they moved deeper into the outpost. The exiles bustled around, grabbing pulse rifles and energy shields, their pointed ears flicking with urgency, tails swishing in synchronized tension. Vexa tossed a grenade belt over her shoulder with a grin that didn't quite reach her eyes. "So, human, fighting your grandpa's pet project? That's some family reunion. Do we bring cake or just explosives?" Eli managed a weak laugh, the humor a thin veil over the drama churning inside him, betrayal from his own bloodline, the weight of rewriting a legacy that had shaped galaxies without his knowledge. "Cake might be overkill. Let's stick with blowing up their plans." But his voice cracked slightly, betraying the storm of emotions, guilt for his unwitting role, anger at the Alliance's deception, and a deepening resolve fueled by Lyra's unwavering presence. She squeezed his hand, her golden eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made the air between them thicken. "We'll turn his creation against them. Your grandfather built the AI to protect. Now it protects through us." Her words carried dramatic weight, echoing off the bunker walls like a vow sealed in the stars. But the moment turned awkward when Nara cleared her throat nearby, her scarred face flushing as she averted her gaze. If you two need another alcove for motivation, just say the word, but maybe after we arm the defenses." The group erupted in nervous chuckles, Vex's being the loudest, a barking laugh that cut through the tension like a laser. "Oh, come on, Nara. Let the bonded pair have their mushy moments. It's not every day a human turns traitor to his own species for a fox girl's charms." Eli felt heat rise to his cheeks, an awkward flush that had him shifting uncomfortably under the exile's teasing stares. Here he was, the supposed hero, reduced to a blushing schoolboy in front of a pack of superpowered aliens. Lyra's tail flicked playfully against his leg, her sly smile adding to the embarrassment. Jealous, Vexa, or just hungry for drama? The banter lightened the air, but it couldn't fully dispel the heightened stakes. Drop pods continued to streak across the sky outside, visible through the bunker's surveillance feeds, each one a harbinger of the invading force closing in. Eli dove back into the systems, his fingers flying over the consoles as he integrated the crystal's remnants into the outpost's network, a risky hack that could either supercharge their defenses or fry the whole setup. Drama escalated as the screens flickered with incoming data, Alliance troop deployments, battalion strengths, and tactical overlays showing encirclement patterns around key Zerathian sites. "They're not just colonizing," he muttered, voice rising with alarm. "They're strip mining the energy source. My grandfather's logs confirm it. Zerathia's core could fuel their empire for centuries, but extracting it would shatter the planet." The revelation hung heavy, gasps rippling through the exiles like a shockwave. Lyra's claws extended involuntarily, scraping the console edge. "Then we make them pay dearly for every step." Her tone was fierce, dramatic fire blazing in her eyes, but the awkward hitch came when the system beeped a warning. Integration complete, bond link required for activation. The console projected a holographic interface, demanding a synchronized touch from Eli and Lyra, essentially, a public display of their intimate connection in front of the whole group. Vex's eyebrows shot up, her ears perking with mischief. "Ooh, is this where you two hold hands and glow like a cheap romance holo?" Please tell me there's dramatic music. Eli shot her a glare, but couldn't suppress a grin. The humor was a lifeline, keeping despair at bay as he and Lyra stepped forward. Their hands met over the interface, the crystal humming to life with a surge of energy that made their skin tingle, visions flashing between them, shared memories of the river, the cave, their passionate union. But in the crowded bunker, it felt exposed, awkward, like sharing a private dance on a public stage. Nara busied herself with a weapon check, muttering, not staring, while the other exiles exchanged smirks. The link stabilized, defenses online, automated turrets whirring to life outside, shield domes shimmering over enclaves. It's working, Eli breathed, relief mixing with the drama of the moment. Lyra leaned into him, her body a comforting press, but whispered teasingly, next time, we do this alone, less audience. As the first Alliance scouts probed the outskirts, sleek drones buzzing like angry insects, the bunker shook with retaliatory fire, the turrets barking energy blasts that lit the surveillance feeds in brilliant flashes. Drama heightened as reports flooded in from fox-skinned scouts. Villages evacuating, warriors rallying, but casualties mounting from initial strikes. One feed showed a drop pod crashing through the forest canopy, troops spilling out in powered armor, their weapons humming with human precision. Eli's stomach twisted. Those were his people, or had been, now enemies by choice. I can try hailing them, he suggested, voice thick with conflict. Pretend I'm still on mission, draw them into a trap. Lyra nodded, but her tail lashed anxiously. Be careful, one wrong word. The unspoken fear hung between them. What if his handlers saw through the ruse? What if his grandfather's legacy pulled him back? The call connected. A stern-faced commander appearing on hologram, Captain Reyes, Eli's old mentor, his expression a mix of suspicion and relief. Hawthorne, report. Core status? Eli swallowed, channeling every ounce of deception. Neutralized, sir, but complications, local resistance heavier than anticipated. Recommend holding position. I've got an inside angle. Reyes narrowed his eyes. Your vitals show anomalies. Bonded with a native? That's unorthodox. The drama spiked, Eli's heart pounding as the exiles froze, the awkward truth of his relationship broadcast across light years. Vexa whispered loudly, unorthodox. That's one way to say hot fox action. Lyra elbowed her, but the humor broke the tension just enough for Eli to recover. It's strategic, sir, gaining trust. Send a small team to these coords for extraction. I'll hand over the samples. Reyes bought it, or seemed to, dispatching a squad, but as the hologram faded, awkward silence fell. Nara tilted her head. You lied smoothly, impressive, or concerning. Eli rubbed his temples. Both, but it buys time. The group erupted in preparations, rigging traps around the outpost, energy mines, illusion fields from Zerathian tech that could mimic entire armies. Drama built as the approaching squad's chatter leaked through intercepted comms, soldiers joking about easy pickup, unaware of the ambush awaiting. One voice, young and familiar, made Eli pause, Private Lena, a recruit he trained back on Earth. Hawthorne's got this. Guy's a legend. The words twisted like a knife, legend or traitor. His hands shook as he set a charge, Lyra noticing and pulling him aside. Doubts? She asked softly, her elegant form a beacon in the dim light. A little, he admitted, the awkward vulnerability surfacing amid the chaos. They're not all monsters, some are just following orders. Her golden eyes softened, tail curling around his waist in a comforting embrace. Like you were, but you chose differently. Their kiss was brief but charged, drama simmering in the stolen intimacy, but interrupted by Vex's holler. Incoming, and hey, if we're dying today, at least make it quick, no lingering death scenes. The humor landed, drawing chuckles, but the first explosions rocked the bunker as the squad triggered a perimeter mine, screams echoing through the feeds. Battle ignited, heightening every sense. The exiles poured out, Lyra leading with a roar. Her shifted form a whirlwind of claws and fury, tearing into armored troops with primal grace. Eli provided cover from a sniper perch, his blaster picking off threats with precision born of Earth training, ironic, using their tactics against them. Drama peaked as Lena's squad closed in, her voice crackling over open channels. Eli, that you firing on us? The awkward betrayal hit home. He hesitated, a shot going wide. Stand down, Lena. This isn't what you think. But she charged, forcing his hand, a stun blast that dropped her non-lethally, guilt flooding him like acid. Vexa leaped into the fray with acrobatic flips, disarming a trooper and quipping, human armor, so clunky, like wearing a tin can to a dance. Her humor kept morale up, even as a grenade exploded nearby, sending Nara tumbling. She rose snarling, claws flashing to gut an attacker. the fight was brutal. Dramatic clashes of tech and instinct. Foxskin agility versus human firepower. Lyra pinned a sergeant, her muscles rippling under pale skin, but took a graze from a laser, blood staining her white hair. Eli rushed to her, shielding her as he fired back. "Not losing you?" he yelled, the words raw with emotion. In the melee's heart, awkward comedy struck when a trooper's armor malfunctioned from a Zerathian EMP mine, his suit locking up mid-charge, leaving him frozen in a ridiculous pose, arms flailing. Vexa couldn't resist. "Look, a statue. Shall we name it Dumb Invader #1? The exiles laughed mid-battle, the levity fueling their ferocity. They turned the tide, capturing survivors including Lena, who glared at Eli from her bonds. "Traitor." The word stung, heightening the personal drama, old friends now foes. As the skirmish ended, the bunker secure but battered, larger threats loomed. The main fleet orbiting, bombardment imminent. Eli interrogated Lena, awkward tension thick as she spat. "You were supposed to be the best of us." He leaned in, voice low. "I am, by stopping this." Drama built as she revealed a weakness. The fleet's command ship had a vulnerability in its shield generators, a design flaw from his grandfather's era. "Why tell me?" he asked. She smirked bitterly. "Because deep down, you're still one of us, prove me wrong." Lyra overheard, her tail lashing jealously. "Old flame." The awkward question hung, Eli sputtering. "What?" "No, just a trainee." Vexa snickered from afar. "Sure, human, keep telling yourself that." The humor diffused the moment, but underscored the emotional minefield. Loyalties torn, hearts entangled. With the intel, they plotted a daring strike, sabotage the command ship from within, using Eli's codes. Drama soared as preparations intensified. Foxskin shifting for stealth, weapons charged. Lyra pulled Eli into a quiet corner, her body pressing close. "No heroics alone, we do this together." Their embrace was passionate, awkward with eavesdroppers nearby, but vital, a reminder of what they fought for. As shuttles prepped for launch, the sky darkened with descending warships. Eli boarded with Lyra, hand in hand, humor from Vexa trailing. "If you blow up the fleet, bring back souvenirs." The ascent began, drama at fever pitch, awkward doubts lingering, but unity unbreakable. Zerathia's fate hung in the balance, and Eli's rewritten legacy was about to be tested in the void. As the shuttle pierced the veil of Zerathia's atmosphere, the stars unfolded before them like a tapestry of infinite possibilities. The planet's emerald curve shrinking in the rear viewport, while the menacing silhouette of the Alliance command ship loomed ahead, a colossal behemoth bristling with cannons and fighter bays, its hull gleaming under the harsh light of the system's sun. Eli gripped the controls, his knuckles white, the hum of the engines vibrating through his bones as Lyra sat beside him, her elegant form strapped into the co-pilot seat, golden eyes fixed on the tactical display with unyielding focus. Behind them, Vexa and Nara coordinated with the other exiles in the cargo hold, their voices a steady murmur over the comms, rigging explosives, sinking cloaking fields, turning their ragtag vessel into a stealthy dagger aimed at the heart of the invasion. The ascent had been tense, drop pods streaking past like fiery comets, but Eli's feigned loyalty had held. The fleet sensors registered them as a friendly extraction craft, buying the precious window they needed. Lyra's hand found his thigh under the console, a reassuring squeeze that carried the weight of their shared resolve. "We're in this to the end," she murmured, her tail curling around the base of his seat, a subtle anchor in the void. The command ship grew larger, its docking bay yawning open like a predator's maw, automated systems guiding them in with clinical precision. Eli's heart pounded, the drama of the moment swelling as memories flooded him, his grandfather's logs, the buried conditioning, the life he'd left on Earth now clashing with the one he'd found here. But Lyra's presence steadied him, her scent filling the cockpit, a reminder of the river's gift that had rewritten his fate. As they touched down in the bay, the shuttle's ramps hissing open, the exiles moved like shadows, cloaked in Zerathian tech that bent light around their forms, making them ghosts in the machine. Vexa led a team to the shield generators, her quips hushed over encrypted channels. "If this goes south, at least we'll go out with a bang, literally." The humor, even whispered, kept the edge off their nerves, but he felt the awkward knot in his stomach tighten. Infiltrating his own people's stronghold felt like dancing on a knife's edge, every corridor a potential trap laced with familiarity. They split into pairs, Eli and Lyra heading for the bridge while Nara and Vexa targeted engineering. The ship's corridors were a maze of sterile metal and humming conduits, patrolled by crew in crisp uniforms, humans like him, oblivious to the intruders slipping past. Lyra's enhanced senses guided them, her pointed ears twitching at every footfall, her body shifting subtly to muffle their steps. At one junction, they pressed into an alcove to avoid a passing officer, her curves molding against him in the tight space, breath warm on his neck. "Remember the cave?" she whispered, a teasing lilt in her voice that stirred memories of their intimacy, her tail brushing his hip. Eli swallowed a chuckle, the awkward heat rising despite the peril. Timing, Lyra, but yeah, motivation noted. Her soft laugh was a bomb, turning the high-stakes infiltration into a shared adventure. Their bond a secret weapon against the cold efficiency of the Alliance. Reaching the bridge access, drama crested as alarms suddenly blared. Vex's team had been spotted, sparks flying in engineering as foxskin claws met human steel. "Breach in Sector 5. A voice boomed over the intercom. Eli hacked the door panel with his old codes, the interface yielding reluctantly, but Lyra's crystal-enhanced touch surged through it, overriding locks in a flash of energy. They burst onto the bridge, blasters raised, the crew whirling in shock. Captain Reyes stood at the command console, his face a mask of betrayal. "Hawthorne, you fool, you've doomed us all." The room erupted in chaos, officers drawing sidearms, consoles sparking as Lyra leaped forward, her form shifting into a blur of white hair and claws, disarming two with graceful ferocity. Eli covered her, stunning rather than killing where he could. His shots precise but his heart heavy. These were colleagues, misled by the same lies that had ensnared him. In the fray, Reyes lunged for the self-destruct, but Eli tackled him, the two rolling across the deck in a tangle of limbs and grudges. "It's over, Captain. The Alliance is wrong. Zerathia isn't a resource. It's a home." Reyes snarled, pinning him momentarily. "Your grandfather would be ashamed. Humanity first." The words stung, heightening the personal drama. But Lyra intervened, her tail whipping to trip Reyes, her claws at his throat. Humanity's strength is in choice, not conquest. Eli rose, binding the captain, as reports flooded in. Vex's team had sabotaged the generators, shields flickering across the fleet. Nara's voice crackled triumphantly. "Charges set, evacuating now." With the bridge secured, Eli interfaced with the main systems, broadcasting a fleet-wide message using his credentials, a confession laced with truth, the buried directives, the AI's protective origins, the moral cost of expansion. "Stand down," he urged, voice steady. "This isn't victory, it's destruction." Drama peaked as responses poured in, some ships powering down weapons, crews mutinying against orders, while loyalists opened fire, turning ally against ally in orbital pandemonium. Lyra stood by him, her hand on his shoulder, as explosions bloomed in the void, fighters clashing, hulls breaching. An awkward surge of emotion hit Eli. Watching his former world fracture was bittersweet, like severing a toxic root to let new growth flourish. They evacuated in the chaos, the shuttle streaking back to Zerathia amid debris fields, the fleet fragmenting as more vessels defected or fled. Vexa whooped over comms. "That was better than a fireworks show. Human, you owe me a drink for that save." Nara added softly, "Redemption suits us all." Landing in the forest enclave, they emerged to cheers from gathered foxskin, the sky clearing as the remaining Alliance ships warped away, their invasion shattered. Eli pulled Lyra into an embrace under the canopy, her body fitting perfectly against his, the awkward uncertainties of before dissolving into certainty. "We did it," he whispered, lips brushing her ear. She purred, tail entwining with his leg. "Our bond rewrote the stars." In the days that followed, peace settled over Zerathia like a gentle rain. Eli worked with defectors like Lena, who awoke from stun to a new perspective, helping broker truces and share knowledge, human tech aiding foxskin resilience, creating hybrids of innovation rather than war. Nara found forgiveness in leading reconstruction, her scars a badge of growth. Vexa, ever the spark, organized celebrations, her humor weaving communities tighter. Who knew saving the planet came with such good parties? Past the nectar, Eli and Lyra built a life in the glades, their home a blend of Earth simplicity and Zerathian elegance, vines climbing solar panels, bioluminescent lights mingling with star charts. Their nights were filled with passion, bodies exploring the depths of their connection under alien moons, her graceful curves arching in ecstasy, his touches eliciting purrs that echoed their unbreakable tie. Mornings brought quiet joys, walks by the river where it all began, her white hair glowing in the sun, pointed ears perking at his stories of distant worlds. As seasons turned, news spread across the galaxy. Zerathia stood as a beacon of unity, humans and foxskin coexisting, Eli's legacy eclipsing his grandfather's, not conquest, but harmony. Lyra bore their child, a hybrid of stars and spirit, with golden eyes and a tail that promised new adventures. Holding the infant, Eli marveled at the river's true gift: a family forged in fire, a love that defied species and empires. In the end, humanity's indomitable spirit shone brightest not in domination, but in the courage to choose connection over control. Eli gazed at Lyra, her sensual form cradled against him, and knew he'd found his forever. The universe, vast and wondrous, held no greater story than theirs, a tale of rescue, redemption, and the eternal bond that guarded them both, as mates for life. As the stars continued to whisper their secrets across the galaxy, Eli and Lyra's legacy inspired countless worlds, proving that true strength lies in unity and love beyond boundaries. In my opinion, this HFY story beautifully captures the essence of humanity's resilience and the power of unexpected connections. It's a reminder that heroes aren't born from power alone, but from choices made in the heart. What do you think? Could a bond like Eli and Lyra's change the fate of your own world? Thank you all for watching. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are the biggest motivation for us to create even better stories. Hit that button and let's keep the adventure going.